To his followers, he was a peaceful man of God, preaching interfaith dialogue. But to many in Turkey, Fethullah Gülen was a man who spent years building an opaque and vengeful movement to take over the Turkish state, and eventually the force behind a failed coup attempt that claimed the lives of more than 240 people in July of 2016. Turkey's president condemned him and compared him to ISIS. Gülen always maintained he had done nothing wrong, saying in a 2016 statement, quote, "I have repeatedly condemned the coup attempt in Turkey and denied any knowledge or involvement." Born in 1941 to modest circumstance, Gülen climbed the ranks of Turkey's religious bureaucracy to become an influential imam. Over decades, he built a fervent and loyal base of followers. Gülen's work was represented in all facets of Turkish life, including business associations, media outlets, and financial institutions. But the linchpin of his movement was a vast network of schools that spanned across more than 100 countries. The schools in Turkey served as the main recruitment and placement tool for the movement. Many of its members were lower middle-class pious Muslims, disenfranchised by Turkey's staunch secularist power circles. Many of them took jobs in the public sector. In 1999, Gülen moved to the United States, settling in the state of Pennsylvania. His supporters say he left Turkey for medical treatment, but critics say he went into self-imposed exile as he'd come under scrutiny, accused of trying to undermine the secular government and replacing it with a religious one. They were allegations he denied. In 2002, when a religiously conservative government was elected, Gülen found an ally in Turkey's new prime minister, Recep Erdogan. It was a match made through political expediency.
The common adversary was the Kemalist, Republican, pro-secular military and civilian bureaucracy.
For nearly a decade, the alliance worked together, using the Gülen's movement's presence in the police and judiciary to stifle the opposition. Hundreds of secularist military officers were detained, arrested, and dismissed in shadowy court cases.
As Gülenist networks, they were closely cooperating and fabricating some so-called proofs to be presented, to be put in indictment, and at the end of the day, nearly 10% of the active generals of the Turkish armed forces, a NATO member country, were put in jail.
In 2013, prosecutors launched a corruption probe targeting Erdogan's inner circle. It was a break in the alliance and perhaps the first public sign of a power struggle between the two men. Erdogan later outlawed Gülen's movement and branded it a terror group. But it was the events of July 15, 2016 that would change the country for years to come. F-16s bombed parliament in the capital city, and armored tanks rolled into positions on the main bridge connecting Asia to Europe in Istanbul. Erdogan quickly blamed Gülen for that failed coup, and his government began a major crackdown. Thousands of people suspected of having links to Gülen were fired from their jobs and arrested. Gülen, meanwhile, lived a quiet life in Pennsylvania despite multiple requests to the United States to extradite him back to Turkey, leaving behind a devout following and a controversial legacy that made him one of the most influential men in Turkey's modern history.